Book of Beginnings. Get through what? Okay. Book of Beginnings, lesson 31. Prophetic or blessing. We're getting down to the final chapters of the book of Genesis. And tonight I'm going to take a little bit of time on something that's going to seem like maybe redundancies or whatever, but I want to take some time to go through each verse of this because of what it is and what they're talking about in the 48th and 49th chapters of the book of Genesis. Got to just leave us the 50th to do the next time. So in chapter 48, verse 1. Sometime after this, Joseph was told, "Your father is weaker." So he set out with his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to you," Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed. This has nothing to do with our lesson tonight, but when I read the name Ephraim again, in my family, on my grandmother Brown's, my father's mother, on her side of the family, my Uncle Floyd was Floyd Ephraim. Ephraim was the grandfather, and there's a bunch of them that are named Ephraim, have Ephraim in the name. And so I grew up with that name. It seems strange to some people, but I grew up with it. So anyway, it says, sometime after this, sometime after what? So when it says, when I start a verse of scripture that says, sometime after this, I don't know what it was after. So I went back to Genesis 47:29. It says, when the time drew near for him to die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, "If I have found favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh and promise me that you will deal with me in kindness and faithfulness. Do not bury me in Egypt." He said, "Do not bury me in Egypt. When I rest with my fathers, carry me away from Egypt and bury me in their burial place." It says he put his hand under his thigh. Do you remember in Genesis when that expression was used before? When Abraham sent his servant to get a wife for Isaac, he's asking to put his hand under his thigh. The custom of that day, and I won't get too graphic, you were swearing on the covenant of circumcision is what you were basically doing, is what many people state that as. But it was a common practice of that day. It was nothing strange. It was just what they did. I'd rather just shake hands personally. So Joseph answered, "I will do what you have asked." And Jacob said, "Swear to me." So Joseph swore to him. Then Israel bowed in thanks at the head of his bed. So let's go back to 48:1. We're going to skip back and forth a little bit. Sometime after this, Joseph was told, "Your father is weaker." So he set out with his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to you," Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed. What did you all notice about that? Did you notice anything unusual about the wording of that? And I'll tell you what it is. He said, when Jacob was told, and it says Israel summoned. Who's Israel? Israel is Jacob. Israel and Jacob are the same person. But it says here, when Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come in," Israel summoned his strength. I heard one commentator say years ago, and this happened to be a woman that was doing, one of my favorite Bible teachers of all time. She said when it was more on the human side in the Old Testament, you'll see Jacob referred to as Jacob. When it's more on the godly side, you'll see him referred to as Israel. Whether that's true or not, it does happen out several times. But you notice that this one, it says when Jacob was told, your son is here. And he said it says up before that, it says, your father is weaker. So he was weak and in bed. And then it says Israel. So it says Israel. So in his spirit, he revived, is what I read this as saying. Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed. So when we back up, it says Israel, in the 27th verse, it says Israel, Jacob, Israel settled in the land of Egypt in the region of Goshen. How many people came there? It tells us, but I don't think I have that in my scripture. It's about 70 altogether out of the whole family out of Israel. It wasn't Israel, it was the land of Canaan. At that time, it was the promised land, and it was about 70 people out of the family that came here. So they acquired property in it and became fruitful and very numerous. Now Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, and his lifespan was 147 years. So how old was he when they moved there? 130. Take 130 and add 17, gives you 147. So if your math is good, then that can tell you. Last week, I mentioned about the land of Goshen, and I think Tommy was that asked about the land of Goshen. So I got us a map. If you look back up here, of course, it says Jerusalem. Jerusalem didn't exist at that time. But this is the Dead Sea, the Jordan River, Sea of Galilee. And they came from here down to here. And up in the northern part, in the Nile Delta region, is where the land of Goshen is. The capital at that time, where the Pharaoh headquarters would have been, it depends on which Pharaoh you say it was that was living at that particular time, because the Bible doesn't tell us, and we have no historical ties to tie us into to tell us for sure, but it would have been either Memphis or Thebes, because both of these were capitals at one time, and Alexandria, which is more up in here, was capital at one time, and Cairo is today. So it would have been probably in one of these two cities where they were. Now, I did a bigger map to show where we're talking about. Here's where Egypt is, right here. And you'll notice this is the Tropic of Cancer, and here's the Tropic of Capricorn. Here's the equator. What's the Tropic of Cancer and what's the Tropic of Capricorn? That's the borders of the tropics. The reason that's significant is because on the first day of spring, I think it is, the sun is exactly overhead there. First day of winter, the sun is exactly overhead down here. And here is the same temperature year-round on the equator. So anyway, Egypt, part of Egypt is down below into the tropics, the border for the tropics. And if you look at this map, you'll see here's the Tropic of Cancer at the very bottom of it. And you can see up there, it has Alexandria there, and it has a star here because that's where the capital is now of Egypt. And then the Suez Canal was cut through here. That was not there back in their day and back in the days of Exodus. And this one shows you a little more. You can see Alexandria. You can see the Luxor down in this region where the pyramids are, and so on. And it shows that this would be a modern day, because here's where Israel is today, and here's where Jordan is today, and here's where Saudi Arabia is. That doesn't necessarily mean anything for our lesson tonight, but I want you to be able to get a picture of where we're talking about. They have moved over into this area up here where Alexandria is today, and it's where the land of Goshen was. 48:3. Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz. Where is Luz? Luz is Bethel. What's significant about Bethel? Bethel is where Jacob laid down to take a nap or to sleep when he was on his way out of Canaan to go up to the land where he got him a wife. He went up to live with his relatives for a while to keep Esau from killing him, basically. And it's the Luz and Bethel are the same place. But here he refers to it as Luz. And this occurrence we don't have recorded in the Bible, but he tells about it. He says, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me. He said to me, I will make you fruitful and numerous. I will make many nations come from you, and I will give this land as an eternal possession to your future descendants. He said, I will give this land as an eternal possession to your future descendants. What does that sound like? That sounds like the promise that God made to Abraham. It sounds like a promise that God made to Isaac. And now we have Israel or Jacob. That same promise is being made to him. And he says God appeared to him and told him this. So now we go back all the way up to verse 35. So Jacob and all who were with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. Jacob built an altar there and called the place God of Bethel, because it was there that God had revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. So which time was he talking about? Was he talking about this time when God appeared to him, or when the angels, he saw the ladder coming up into heaven and angels coming up and down? We don't know. It doesn't tell us. But this backs up and tells us some about it. Then in 35:10, so he named him Israel. This is what God did. God also said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation indeed, an assembly of nations will come from you, and kings will descend from you. I'll give to you the land that I gave to Abraham and Isaac, and I will give the land to your future descendants. So this adds to what Jacob had just said. He said God appeared to him at Luz and told him this, and here it tells us that he referred to Abraham and Isaac in this. So, chapter 48, verse 5. He's talking to Joseph. He says, your two sons born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt are now mine. Ephraim and Manasseh belong to me just as Reuben and Simeon do. Children born to you after them will be yours and will be recorded under the names of their brothers with regard to their inheritance. What was Israel doing? What was Jacob doing? What was he doing for these two boys that were the first two born of Joseph? He was adopting them as his son. Now, why is that significant? How many sons did Jacob have? 12. Who is supposed to get the double portion? The oldest. Who is the oldest? Reuben is the oldest. He's supposed to get the double portion. What did Jacob just do? He adopted two of Joseph's sons and made them equal heirs with the sons. So in essence, Joseph is going to wind up getting the double portion regardless. Well, that's who he wanted to get the double portion all the time. I'm not saying that's the reason he did it, but that's the practical application of what happened with this. So he was adopting these two sons. Then we go to verse 13. Then Joseph took them both with his right hand on Ephraim. So he had Ephraim over here toward Israel's left hand. His dad was facing him towards his left hand. And Manasseh in his left hand over here towards Israel's right hand. Okay? And brought them to Israel. But Israel stretched out his right hand and put it on Ephraim's head. And his right hand put it on the head of Ephraim, the younger, and crossing his hands, put his left hand on Manasseh's head, although Manasseh was the firstborn. Why did he do that? Verse 15. Then he blessed Joseph and said, the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all harm, may he bless these boys, and may he be called by my name. May they be called by my name and the names of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and may they grow to be numerous within the land. Then the 17th verse, when Joseph saw that his father had placed his right hand on Ephraim's head, He thought that it was a mistake, and took his father's hand and moved it from Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. Joseph said to his father, "Not that way, my father. This one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." When you're blessing someone, which one you put your right hand on is the one that gets the greater blessing. And that's what Jacob was doing. He was saying, and Joseph put his two sons up there in order so that he would put his right hand on Manasseh, who was the oldest, and his left hand on Ephraim, who was the youngest, and Israel, Jacob, switched hands, and he put his hands on the other one's head. But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He too will become a tribe, and he too will be great. Nevertheless, his younger brother will be greater than he, and his offspring will become a populous nation." What is Israel doing here? He's prophesying the future. He's not only blessing his grandsons, who he's adopted as his son, he's predicting the future. And if you follow through Ephraim and Manasseh, you'll find out that Ephraim did become greater than Manasseh later on in the history of the nation. And so he's prophesying the future here as well as blessing them. In the 21st verse, then Israel said to Joseph, "Look, I am about to die, but God will be with you and will bring you back to the land of your fathers." So he's saying, God will bring you back to the land of your fathers. 49 verse 1. Then Jacob called his sons and said, "Gather around, and I will tell you what will happen to you in the days to come." And he had made Joseph, remember, he made him promise, "You will not leave my body in Egypt. You will bring me back to the promised land, to the land of Canaan, and bury me there with my fathers." Why? Why was that so important? Why would he care? Why would he care? It's because this is the covenant that God made with Abraham. He said, your descendants will inhabit this land. So he wanted to be buried not in the land of Egypt where he lived out the rest of his days. He wanted to be buried where his fathers, Abraham and Isaac and his mother and grandmother, and all of them were buried there. He wanted to be buried there with them because this was the covenant land. 49 verse 2. Come together and listen, sons of Jacob. Listen to your father Israel. So now, I'm going to go through the whole section of what he says to his 12 sons. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, and the first fruits of my virility, excelling in prominence, excelling in power. Turbulent as waters, you will no longer excel because you got into your father's bed and you defiled it. He got into my bed. Reuben slept with, if you remember back a little, Reuben slept with one of Israel's wives. We think it was Bilhah, who he slept with. He went in and slept with Bilhah. So he's saying, you're not going to get the blessing of the firstborn because you did this. You defiled my household. Simeon and Levi, notice he mentioned those together, are brothers. Their knives are vicious weapons. May I never enter their council. May I never join their assembly. For in their anger they killed men, and on a whim they hamstring oxen. Their anger is cursed, for it is strong, and their fury, for it is cruel. I will disperse them throughout Jacob and scatter them throughout Israel. What is he talking about? What did they do when they were at Shechem? What happened to their sister Dinah? Pardon me? They raped their sister. He raped their sister. And so if you were going to avenge your sister and you were going to kill somebody to do that, who would you kill? The one that did the deed. Well, what did they do? They killed everybody in town. all the men in town. They killed them all. He said, so basically he's saying, Reuben's not going to get the blessing of the firstborn, neither are you two. Then Judah. Listen carefully to what he says to Judah, the fourth son of Leah. Judah, your brothers will praise you. Remember, the name Judah means praise or praising. Your hand will be on the necks of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down to you. Judah is a young lion. My son, you returned from the kill. He crouches. He lies down like a lion or a lioness. Who dares to rouse him? The scepter will not depart from Judah, or the staff from between his feet, until he whose right it is comes, and the obedience of the people belongs to him. What is he talking about? He said, the scepter will not pass from you. What is the scepter the sign of? Kingship. Who's the descendant of Judah? Jesus was a descendant of Judah. Did Jacob, Israel, know that he was prophesying about the Messiah? I doubt it. But he was prophesying. He was seeing way into the future. And he was saying, the scepter will not depart from Judah, or the staff from between his feet, until he whose right it is comes, and the obedience of the peoples belongs to him. In other words, he who comes. He ties his donkey to a vine, and the colt to his donkey to the choice vine. He washes his clothes in wine, and his robes in the blood of grapes. Doesn't that sound lovely? His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth are whiter than milk. So that's the prophet. So far, who has received the best blessing? By far, Judah has. And he, not only that, he's seeing into the future about Judah. Who does he want to get the best blessing? Joseph. That's who he wants. That's his favorite son. Zebulun will live by the seashore and will be a harbor for ships, and his territory will be next to Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down between the saddlebags. He saw that his resting place was good and that the land was pleasant, so he leaned his shoulder to bear a load and became a forced laborer. So he's prophesying about Zebulun and Issachar. Gad will judge his people as these four that we're talking about now, the two that I just talked about, and the two now. Who are they the sons of? Bilhah and Zilpah. They're not the sons of Leah or Rachel. They're the sons of their maids. Dan will judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. He will be a snake by the road, a viper beside the path that bites the horse's heels, so that his rider falls backward. I will wait for your salvation, Lord. Wouldn't you like to have some of these blessings pronounced upon you? Gad will be attacked by raiders, but he will attack their heels. Asher's food will be rich, and he will produce royal delicacies. Naphtali is a doe set free that bears beautiful fawns. Asher and Naphtali were the last two sons of Leah. Then he gets to Joseph. Joseph, who's his favorite? Joseph. Joseph is a fruitful vine beside a spring. Its branches climb over the wall. The archers attacked him, shot at him, and were hostile toward him. Yet his bow remained steady, and his strong arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, by the name of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, by the God of your father, who helps you, and by the Almighty who blesses you with blessings. He's not finished. Of the heavens above, blessings of the deep that lies below, and blessings of the breast and the womb. The blessings of your father excel in the blessings of my ancestors, and the bounty of the eternal hills. May they rest on the head of Joseph, on the crown of the prince of his brothers. So he pronounced a pretty serious good blessing towards Joseph. Did Joseph deserve it? I would say he did. Which one out of the 12 brothers up to this time has done the most to help the family and to help Israel? Who's the Benjamin? I would say. Now, Benjamin is the youngest. His blessing comes next. Benjamin is a wolf. He tears his prey. In the morning he devours the prey, and in the evening he divides the plunder. That's all he says. That's all he leaves for Benjamin. Maybe he was worn out by this time. I don't know. After Joseph, it probably was. So the 29th verse, 49:29, then he commanded them, I am about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite. The cave is the field of Machpelah near Mamre in the land of Canaan. This is the field Abraham purchased from Ephron the Hittite as a burial site. The 33rd verse says, when Jacob had finished instructing his sons, he drew his feet into the bed and died. He was gathered to his people. That's pretty good timing. He knew his time was coming. He knew he was going to die, and he blessed his son before he died. He pronounced, not only did he pronounce blessings, he prophesied over them, and what he said about them, you can search out many of those things, occurred many, many, many years later. How many more years is the children of Israel in the land of Egypt after this? About 400 years. He's prophesying at least 400 years in the future, and some of it several, like 3,000 years in the future. A long time, 1,000 years at least into the future. So what I thought I would do, it says he's going to be buried there, and I've shown some of these pictures before. This is where the cave of Mamre, so far as it's supposed to be. This is where the structure that was built around here and that's there in Hebron now. And this is an interior shot. This is an exterior shot out the side. You can see us up where that one is. And this is out front. This is what was built. Who built this? Who do you think built this? Do you think Jacob or any of them built, or any of his sons built this? No. You'll be surprised in a minute. I guess you will. Here's some more interior shots. I think this is where Abraham is supposed to be built. Nobody really knows if they're buried there, but this was built as a shrine for them. And you can see all these are interior shots of that same place. It's quite an elaborate place that they have here. The current structure above the cave was built during the reign of Herod the Great. So Herod, King Herod, is the one that built this, the same one that had the temple built, 37 to 4 BCE, and remains the only fully intact Herodian edifice. Everything that Herod built, the only thing that still remains fully intact is this structure. This is supposed to be the burial place of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, of Rachel, of Rebecca, of Sarah, of all of them is supposed to be in this place. We don't know if it is. So, under Byzantine rule, a Christian basilica was constructed on the site. So, during the Byzantine era, if you remember, the Roman Empire split in two. It had the eastern part was the Byzantine Empire and became the capital of Rome before it finally disintegrated. But during the Byzantine rule, a Christian basilica was constructed on the site. The Muslim conquest in the 7th century led to the conversion of the structure into the Ibrahimi Mosque. Saladin reconquered Hebron in 1188, reinforcing its status as a mosque. So what's happened? This person has it in hand, and they take it over, and then they combat this one. During the Crusades, the mosque was transformed into a church, and later reconverted into a mosque by Saladin. The 12th century saw the first reported discovery of human remains believed to belong to the biblical patriarchs. We don't know if they are or not. It doesn't matter. The Ottomans restricted Jewish access to the site, permitting them only as far as the 7th step, as far as you could go, outside the complex. During the British Mandate, 1917 and 1948, Restrictions eased slightly, but full Jewish access was still denied, even up through 1948 when Israel became a nation. Following the 1967 war, Israel occupied the West Bank and took control of Hebron. Jewish worship was permitted inside of the mosque, leading to increased tensions with the Muslim population. 1968 to 1976, Jewish prayer times were expanded, leading to violent confrontations. A grenade attack in 1968 injured 47 Israelis. 1980, an attack on Jewish worshippers left 6 dead and 17 wounded. 1994, the Cave of the Patriarchs massacre is what it was called. Jewish extremist Baruch Goldstein killed 29 Palestinian worshippers inside the mosque, triggering widespread violence and leading to a division of the site between Muslims and Jews. Under the 1997 Hebron Protocol, the site was divided with 81% designated as the Ibrahimi Mosque for the Muslims and 19% as a synagogue for Jews. Security remains tight with Israeli forces controlling access. Now, before we go any further, with everything that's going on today, and they're saying that Israel is committing genocide in this area, and it says that they are the occupiers of this land. Look, in 1997, they have controlled this since 1967, but yet they still give the Muslims 81% designation for them to worship there and only 19% for the Jews. Does this sound like a conquering people to you? Does this sound like the cruel people that they're screaming about? Sir. So I don't get carried away. Is this really where the patriarchs were buried? We don't know. Does it really matter? No, except it marks the land that was promised as the land of promise for Abraham's descendants. Does it matter where Jesus was buried? No. There's 2 different sites today, that one's the Garden Tomb and the one's at the tomb of the it's a church built there. I can't think of the name of the church. 2 different sites where Jesus was buried. Do we know either one of them was where he was buried? Does it matter? No, because what happened? He raised from the dead. What really matters? What really matters is this land was promised for a promise to Abraham, part of the covenant, and Jesus was born in this country. If he had not been born in this place, he could not have fulfilled the prophecies of who he was and could not have accomplished what he accomplished in fulfilling the covenant of Abraham. So he had to be born there. So one last map. This is Israel today. This is Gaza, and this is the West Bank. Here's Jerusalem, which is right on the border of the West Bank and Israel. And here's Hebron. Hebron is where this burial site is. This is where they're supposedly buried. This is where this structure is built that I just showed you the pictures of. It's in Hebron, still called the occupied territory. Why is it called the occupied territory instead of Samaria and Judea like it was called back in biblical days? Politics. Politics. The world if they came in and took over, the Jews, if they came in here and took over Hebron and took over all this and made it part of Israel and said that's what we're going to do, what would happen? War would break out from all directions. Sir, any questions? My voice is giving out.